Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, no, I'm fucking like stuck in like leaving game hell here, so I figured it'd be a good chance to just knock it out, I guess.
I honestly, I saw that. I was writing this script, and that's why I thought of it. I was just like, you know what? Just random thought. We could just chill and talk about this instead of having to deal with the server issues.
Yeah, no, that's good with me. I'm down.
Okay, cool. So, so yeah, I'm just kind of prepping a video that was kind of like, what are they going to talk about this year? Since Nikita said they were going to do that devcast in a week or two, as like a heads up. Plus, I do a lot of lurking. I go around to a bunch of different streams, just seeing like what people are talking about, what people might not understand, especially if they're people that don't usually play a lot of Tarkov, like the bigger names and stuff like that during the drops and stuff.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
a lot of this stuff, they just have no idea. A lot of people just think the game is done. Like it's just so I know that I talk about this, probably every other month, but I'm just gonna go on the list and just everything that they plan on doing this year, as well as just like in general.
hmm
And yeah, I figured you just want to chill, talk about it, kind of stuff, and see what you
Yeah,
think and give some input on it, kind of
yeah.
stuff.
No, I'm down. I mean, I had like a rant earlier. I don't know if you were watching. Somebody were like, what's the game gonna be like? When it's finished, and basically described what it'll be like, 1.0, and it'll be a prologue mission first thing. You get spit out right in the streets. You won't have a stash or a hideout or anything like that, and how like the linear progression through the world is going to be much different based on the personal storylines and traders having physical locations and essentially like where we're at right now with Tarkov and how the wipes have been for the past like 5 years is like mid game. Like that's the mid game. Like we have the hideout, we have traders, we can order stuff from them like without delay, and that's like mid game. But the early game for Tarkov is going to be so much different. It's not going to be golden pocket watch mission anymore because you won't have that quest line until you have gone to customs, or you won't even have met Peacekeeper until you've progressed far enough to actually physically to go to Shoreline and go to his like encampment. And that's why he has all those Shoreline quests for you, because like that's when you go to Shoreline. And a lot of people don't understand that like a lot of the quest patterns and the way that they're broken up right now is not because like that's just how they have the quests, because that's how it's going to be literally tied to the linear progression of your journey escaping through the game, going from
Yeah,
like map to map.
yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things. For sure. It does with the map to map. I think what they're probably going to do, at least this is what this is what I have written down here so far, is I think we're going to see it with streets. And
Yes, I
but
agree.
like as in like of course we're gonna have the till labs and back and forths with factory and streets, but as like a this is the feature, like this is we're gonna have streets and map to map travel as a
hmm
thing. Personally, I think the next wipe that we're gonna see is that first iteration of streets. I think that's gonna be like
Agreed.
the big call, probably
Agreed.
like Q3, probably like August, something like that this
Yeah,
year.
I was gonna say probably Q3, like end of Q3 this
That's
year, because like this wipe is like the way the economy is set up. It's gonna be a wipe that lasts for a while.
oh
Like
for sure.
it's gonna be like this for a hot minute.
Plus, they'll want to mess with the economy with the trader. Because the last time that Nikita talked about it, they said that they were working on the animations for the traders and the trader and the bosses
hmm
for the island. I don't know if they were having trouble with it. Like I don't know what extent. I mean, we don't know what extent they're going to use those guys and like how active they're going to be. Like, is the trader going to walk around like he's a scab boss, or is he going to have some
Right.
place that he sits there like in Stalker? Like we don't actually know. Also the extent of like how it's going to work. Like I'm from what I've heard so far, they said that there's going to be a unique thing that you need to do in order to access him. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as you have a key card and then you swipe it at the gate and then they let you
Yeah.
through.
No.
I
You're probably. I bet you it's gonna be tied to like scab reputation or something like that. I mean, I heard a rumor that like how like we'll have to go like streets lap streets. Well,
Yep.
we'll also be able to go to factory, but apparently, if you want to have the factory access, you have to have like max scab karma in order to
Oh,
get the
okay.
factory pass. So it could be something related to that.
So I
Or
didn't just
I
to
don't
real
know.
quick because when I heard him talk about that, at least when like a full discussion last time Nikita talked about that, I
hmm
didn't hear that. It's supposed to just be access. It's supposed to just be that you can either go
Okay,
to factory and then go to labs because they want to try and cut people down on camping the exits. So
definitely.
you have to be able to not just have the one exit, and also you have to think like, oh shit, did that person, if you were following, like if you're stalking somebody through labs and they get away from you, you're not gonna know that that person went to streets. Well,
Yeah.
if you know exactly what extract they go to, then you'll know whether they went to factory or
Right.
streets. But if you lose them, then you won't know that. Okay, he's definitely gone. Let's just go to streets and see if we find him. Like it can still be that extra. We don't know where they went kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah, which that's the last time that he talked about it. If that anything that's involving like reputation and building up, I'm on board with. But last time we talked about it, it didn't sound like that was the plan. But it does open up, like obviously we're seeing with the lighthouse to shoreline, just no wall there, but with factory to customs too, because it's literally just a wall between factory and customs. Like I feel like they would just take that wall out, and then same thing with woods to factory. And then if we're going that far, it's like how much farther are we going to go with reserve to shoreline, and then that's pretty much everything as is. Or sorry, reserve to customs as well, because anyone that doesn't notice that, if you just go up to the train, you can see the train crash on customs from reserve. I feel like that's going to be a big thing that pops up, and I wanted to see what you thought about that. Nice AR, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Somebody in chat was asking about it. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I think it's gonna control a lot of the pacing, and I think it's just gonna be that's only gonna be a really big hit to like the labs mains who just like get a key card, jump in, jump out, reset, and just labs over and over and over again. And players are gonna have to, I guess, have like a new thought process in terms of how they get to and from those maps, and it's also gonna make like bringing in extra food and water and encouraging more kind of like preparation. And the way that also people move through the raids will be a bit different, because you have the players who are there for the raid and they want to loot that raid, or the players who are just there to try and pass through and get to the next location. And it also makes me wonder if passing into a new location will take into account like run throughs, because I don't imagine it would, because you're just going to another raid. So I don't think it would matter if you got a certain amount of experience in a raid and having to go transition over to the other one, because technically you're not going to go back to your stash. So
that was the exact thing I was actually going to talk about next. Sorry to cut you. I didn't know where you were going to go with that, but like that was because how are we going to actually get to the hideout? I haven't heard them talk about that at all. We just see.
So I've theorized it's those underground doors. There's doors everywhere around the map that all go underground, right? Because the hideout is connected to a metro system under the ground. Nikita talked about in like prior podcasts.
Did not know about that.
It's
to a metro system.
Yeah, it's connected to like an underground metro system, and there's a very elaborate underground tunnel system and bunker system throughout EFT that Terror Group used, aka like all the sewers and all those bunker doors on woods as well, like all the ZB bunkers and shit. Like where do you think that extract takes you? The ZB bunkers on customs and stuff like that everybody knows. Like even D2 extract, where do you think that goes? And so a lot of those underground locations are where you'll get to your stash. And for what it was described to me was when the open world is eventually unlocked, that's how you get back to your stash. Is you have to go do a specific extract that are littered all over the map, and you go to one of these like underground like areas that take you back to your stash basically.
Yeah, and he has talked about I remember, because I know that I made a thumbnail for it with a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle but with a scab face. He said the sewers, like there's going to be there's going to be a bunch of manhole exits just kind of like scattered, and then you can go in through that way.
Because different extracts will take us to different locations. For example, like once we finally get far enough in the personal story missions to find out where reserve is, because reserve is technically kind of like a secure base and it's not easy to get into. Once we finally get there and we want to go out, Red Rebel will take us to Shoreline. Scablands will take us back to Customs. I believe D2 will take you back to their stash. Hermetic takes you to Factory. And then the train takes you to Lighthouse, and that's how you unlock Lighthouses. So once you finally get to Lighthouse, then you're gonna have to go through all the way through Lighthouse, all the way to Shoreline, and then that's when we get Shoreline finally. And it's gonna be pretty wild.
Did you see there's getting so you remember the other day, this was like back at the beginning of the patch, I think it was one of the first times that we ran one of our like rogue sweeping kind of team things, when we ran at that white car because you guys had the task.
Yeah. There's
PMCs that try to do that now and they die. Also,
really?
Yes. Also, I did it, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or whatever. I did it pretty soon after we had done that run as a scav, and the scavs died as well. So minimum, if you were a scav, they shoot you at different distances. And if you're a PMC, there's actually clips of PMCs that go to that white car. They barely get past the truck and they're getting shot.
No shit.
So that's why it's a bit confusing. I'm wondering if they're messing with it, or if for that task specifically, maybe they meant for you to get shot. Like that's why it was a bit confusing. But
maybe I don't know. I mean, because like I remember when we first did it, like you got all the way up there and you're good, and nothing bad happened, but other people getting clapped. It's pretty interesting.
And then there were other raids where I know I went past that. That's why we were so confused about it. It was like I know I've passed that truck before and I've gotten shot at. So it's weird. Maybe you just need someone in your group to have that task in order for it to work, which I haven't even gotten that task yet myself. Once we find somebody, we're gonna end up testing that. But absolutely, if you are a scav, you die if you get near that truck. Like if you pass that truck. So that's
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
yeah. So my theory, I think we talked about this the other day too. My
Oh,
theory.
actually, also, I just had an idea too. You're probably going to need a specific armband in order to not get shot.
Well, that's what I was getting into. Yeah. So I was wondering. I mean, that's a good point too. Something visually speaking to know they're not going to shoot at you too. Yeah, good point there. Good point there. My prevailing theory with this, because I was following closely, obviously I've been following a lot of the podcast closely, but they were talking about underbarrel grenade launchers for a while there, specifically because the GL40 for, in case anyone listening doesn't know, the GL40 is literally made for the SCAR. Yeah, so they were talking about adding the SCAR, and then I asked, are we going to get the GL40 as an underbarrel because it's for the SCAR? And they said yes, and they were talking about underbarrels coming back. Right. And then once they started talking about splitting Lighthouse up and not having the trader, that's when they stopped talking about underbarrels. So my theory is that the trader is going to have those underbarrels and maybe some explosives or some of the fancy
I could totally see that. I mean, I could definitely see him having some spicy gear like that. Maybe the impact grenades would be a good thing to have there too. Even like good armor, ammo, stuff like that. Maybe you can find. And it also makes me wonder too if that stuff is still going to be counted as a found in raid item as well.
Yeah, it's weird,
which is pretty interesting because technically it's a trader that's in the raid, but then again, eventually every trader will be in raid. They'll have like their own little location, and like animations for voice lines and dialogue and stuff. Kind of like Stalker, like when you go to a location and the trader's like there in the map and you go talk to them. But it's like obviously a safe zone that's potentially controlled by a specific faction. And so depending on your karma with any specific group will kind of dictate what trader you can get to without getting fucked up.
Yeah, that was one of the things too, since they moved suburbs in town to DLC. I'm wondering if they're gonna change up how that works. I think it's Prapper and maybe Mechanic. I think it's maybe two of the traders are housed on town and suburbs. So there's like, I'm wondering.
So there's the Tarkov Trade District. Therapist is in streets. She's in streets.
Yeah.
Mechanic is in factory. Peacekeeper is shoreline or somewhere around shoreline. I think it might be that that facility across the train bridge.
Yeah, I'm looking it up on the wiki. It's on the wiki.
I think that's where it is. Prapper is suburbs, right?
Urban settlement. Yeah, I think that's suburbs.
Yeah. Ragman is in the Tarkov Trade District, which I think may actually become like a new location. Because again, when they do open world, there's gonna be like dead zones in the sense like they're not maps, but they're just the areas that connect the maps, and they very well could be in those zones. Because True. Like even though that we don't have any new maps coming, it doesn't mean they're not going to expand the current ones and make them larger, such as like woods, shoreline, even lighthouse, reserve. Even Nikita mentioned that the minefield and the mines will eventually have physical mines, and you'll actually be able to sweep them, and they will become extracts one day. So it won't just be an RNG based mine where if you're just here you get blown up. You will actually be able to work your way through that minefield and survive and extract through that side of the map.
I did not know that.
That's cool. He mentioned that a little while ago. Because we will have the ability to like disarm the mines and traps as well once they introduce that. And I think physical mines will likely come in whenever they decide to add like actual physical traps and claymores and like toe poppers and shit like that.
I again, like because a lot of the stuff you're saying I do have info on, so I don't know when to like speak up and stuff, like, so my bad. But it's like the last he did talk about that. Last he talked about that was streets as well, because our car dealership boy is gonna have claymores. He's gonna have claymores set up around the area. So that was another thing. Yeah. Also, they wanted us to be able to ambush the BTR with explosives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Be able to set up anti-tank mines for it. Shoulder fired rocket launchers, shit like that.
The one thing I haven't seen, but it makes complete sense, is for people to have laws. I assume they're going to add. I assume they're going to add the law, because they talked about. They even talked about the I think it's the Schmel, which is it's like the really portable one-use launcher that is sort of like a law, but it's fucking thermobaric. Because Nikita confirmed thermobarics too, which is nutty. I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen? Oh yeah, no,
they melt through fucking armor like crazy.
No, thermobarics. Those are super heavy, like high explosive. They will knock buildings down.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they will demolish buildings. They actually kill crews.
Oh, wait, he said
Yeah.
those are the rounds that will kill people on the other side of the wall and
Yes.
shit.
They
Yeah,
will
those are
kill
nutty.
vehicle crews through the armor because of the concussive force. Like, they're absolutely
Damn,
insane.
that's
And
nutty.
Nikita confirmed those are coming.
That's
So
brutal.
yeah, so it's like, what the, you guys are like, everyone's worried about impact grenades. Like, you have no idea. Like, how
Yeah.
is this gonna work?
It makes me
It's
wonder
like,
too with the whole airdrop thing, you know, how they can spawn a vehicle into the map. It makes me wonder if like these vehicle convoys will start coming in on other maps. Like imagine like Scab Boss rolling in like on a fucking convoy and like stopping somewhere in the map and offloading themselves, or even raiders and like black SUVs and shit.
or Black Division.
Yeah, that too.
One
Black Division as well.
One of the prevailing kind of theories is like, what if they somehow keep a timer involved even in the open world, but it's just like a random event? Because they did, as you know, brass tacks, they did say that there's going to be random artillery shells and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that are
the
gonna
red
be a thing.
zones.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's going to be involved with if they do end up adding the Black Division. What if that timer is not necessarily something that's just, hey, this is just time to leave, because obviously that's a in development thing. It's just like
Right.
that's just the server side thing. They need people to move on so they can get new
Yeah.
people in and stuff like that. But if they kept it, what if it's because Black Division's coming to get your ass?
Yeah, and
Like,
you better get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, like that's what it is. And it's not necessarily the timer ends, it's the timer actually starts to go negative, and that's how long you've survived since the Black Division started hunting you. Like,
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, they even mentioned that there's going to be different factions that will hunt either Bear or USEC too, and when the
GRU,
personal
yeah.
story, when the personal story missions come in too, that's when the differences between the factions will be actually will actually matter besides clothing and voice lines, because it will affect like trader influence as well as the different factions that will hunt either Bear or USEC down. And we
Yeah.
kind of got a small taste of that with the rogues.
For sure. And the GRU, again, I can't just tell people enough, because anytime anyone was talking about, it's like it's impossible to play Lighthouse as a
Wait
Bear.
for
It's
Streets,
impossible.
bitch.
Yeah, it's just the GRU. Everyone's gonna run Bear when Streets is out, because everyone's gonna want to play Streets. The GRU are rogues, but they hunt USEC and they move. They will literally hunt, like they'll move around, they patrol around, and they'll go out. So that's nutty.
Mhm. Well, because Bear, to my knowledge, and the GRU, they control a lot of that area.
Oh, for sure.
And they're like the dominating force. They even go around and kill scavs, which I think is pretty badass.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was curious if that was, well, for one, with the Russian regulars, and then also the UN, because that was one of the big things. Is the UN's been talked about for now. It's been over a year and a half since we first heard about
the blue
UN.
fire.
Yeah, the UN, where that's supposed to be our easier access to like NATO gear and stuff like that. And then they're gonna have their patrols around as well. And I think the reason why we haven't seen it yet is because they're gonna have a big role with PMC Karma.
They are, yeah.
And
And
I've PMC Karma.
Yeah, apparently they're reworking it. But last I heard, Nikita, you might have heard me talk about this, but Nikita mentioned that Karma will be associated with a raid factor system. And what raid factors are is a raid to raid basis that is a blanket that affects every PMC in the raid, no matter what PMC or faction you are. And so, for example, like a raid factor would be you can't kill scavs. If you kill scavs, you'll lose reputation with skier, but gain some for prapper. So it kind of allows people to choose, basically a side. And that could be the same thing for rogues. It could be the same thing for GRU. It could be the same thing for Bear. It could be the same thing for USEX. It could be the same thing for rogue USEX. Stuff like that, or even scab bosses if it wanted to get specific, or it could just be PMCs, and it would kind of start putting people in situations where they have like a ROE for that specific raid that will dictate their karma, which will therefore dictate the interactions of other factions to them, as well as the trader's reputation with them. So we could very well get to the point where like you have like the prapper mains, or you have the peacekeeper mains, or you have like the skier mains, you know what I mean? And the gear and equipment they have is like what you kind of have to stick with, and everything else you have to either get off the flea market or find.
Yeah. Also, they talked about I knew that they talked about something similar like that along with the global events, but I forgot that so he called it a raid factor system.
Yeah, raid factors.
Okay.
That's what it was.
I remember him talking about that, but I didn't know he called it that specifically.